Hello, hello, hello. You are here with Dave Jose, and we are getting ready to talk about something that's super important. We're going to talk about the difference between a person and the difference between people. Now, this is huge because when you're doing your affidavits, you want to make sure that they are not presuming that you are something other than what you are. You don't want them to assume that you're some professional, like an attorney, some person that has to follow some rules for government or rules of procedure that they use. You want to make sure that you are one of the people who have all political power, who has the highest standing, who they owe allegiance to. Now, as government officials, they are on a lower level. They are servants and trustees. So, what we're going to do, we'll use Arizona statute and Arizona Constitution to break down the difference between one of the people, and we'll conversely look at persons, right? So, like I said, we'll use the Constitution and we'll use the statute. So let us take a look into this. Let us go deeply because this will blow your mind. Okay, let's get ready because this is going to get heavy. This is ARS 26317. It's a statute from Arizona dealing with the mandates of orders from the executive branch during an emergency. Now, if man or woman is the same word as person or people, when it says any person, anybody would be included. But let's see what it says. Any person who violates any provision of this chapter or who knowingly fails or refuses to obey any lawful order or regulation issued as provided in this chapter shall be guilty of a class 1 misdemeanor. So that means if person means man or woman, nobody would be able to get out of this. Everybody would be under the jurisdiction. But notice if you are in the private, one of the people who are in the private, it does not count. Watch. This provision, the whole law, does not apply to the refusal of any private organization or member thereof to participate in a local emergency or state of emergency as defined by this chapter. This clearly means that the word person does not mean all people or every man and woman. Person must mean something else because anybody who's in a private organization or a member thereof is not bound by it. What I'm going to tell you is there's a difference between the private, which is the people, and the public, the government officials. Now, for good measure, here's the definition of private person, page 625 in the Black's Law 5th edition. Notice what happens when somebody is called private. Watch this. Term sometimes used to refer to persons. Now, realize that people are in the private, other than those holding public office or in military services. So in the emergency section, somebody in the military or in public office, remember the difference between private and public, can be told to do things as lawful orders. But if you did not swear an oath to serve in the military or in public office, then you are not one of the people who are bound by the orders in the statute. Notice almost all statute says person. Let me go a little bit deeper. Article 2, Section 3 of Arizona Constitution. Look at Section B. This is going to show the two different statuses in the same sentence. To protect the people's freedom. So notice they have to protect the freedom of the people, so they can't get rid of it if they have to protect it. And to preserve the checks and balances of the United States Constitution. Now watch this. This state may exercise its sovereign authority to restrict the actions of who? Of its personnel. See, the personnel is a multitude of government persons and use of its financial resources. So we realize that they can restrict their personnel, right? But they don't have power over the people. So you can restrict persons, but you cannot restrict people. Why? Article 2, Section 2 of Arizona Constitution. All political power is inherent in the people, and governments derive their just power from the consent of the governed. Those who sign up to work with them and consent to be governed, that's who they control. And are established to protect and maintain individual rights. The people have individual rights that persons or government created offices or people created offices of the government don't have. We have a standing where we have all political power. We instruct them in what to do. They don't have the right to bind us. We can come together and do what we need to do without their permission. We're independent of them. So when it comes to what status you're going to come in to fight, you have to make the decision. Are you going to be a person or presumed to be a person who the government controls and creates? Or are you going to be, or regulates? Or are you going to be one of the people who has all political power, who they have to protect your freedoms, who they have to protect your individual rights, and never got any authority to attack you? Let's go deeper. Okay, so watch the right that the people have in Section 5 of Article 2 of Arizona Constitution, right of petition and assembly. The right of petition and of the people peaceably to assemble for the common good shall never be abridged. So if we have a common good and we want to come together as the people, we can. But notice that in your states is going to say that anybody who comes together to have a protest, persons doing it, like in New Jersey, they may fine and ticket you, or you may need a permit as persons. Well, they can't do that as a people because they already promised that you have the right to assemble and come together. You see how powerful that is? Okay, so as you see, guys, there is a big difference between being one of the people and being a person. So the people have the ability to be free, to come together and discuss what they wish, to be independent of government, to not be forced by government. And at the same time, persons or personnel of government, they are the servants and trustees, and therefore they are able to be restricted. Now, if you're going to come before a court because it is the government personnel who's always, or not always, who are using the courts majority of the time, the government created rules for them to make it so that it's an easier process if they're bringing tons of cases before the court. As the people, we don't always come before the court except for if we're harmed, somebody took our property, somebody did something wrong with the contract and caused us harm. So the people don't use our jurisdiction until someone infringes upon one of our rights. The government officials many times will be arguing over statute or policy, and they want to know which one is right. So they'll go before a administrative hearing and they will have a discussion about what to do in an administrative situation. It is the same thing with persons who holds licensing. The government tries often to get people to get a license so that they can say you are under their jurisdiction and no longer has your rights as one of the people, but they use deception to get you to get the license so they can call you a person. But I want you guys to see that there is a difference between the status and the standing. When you come in the right status, you have more standing. So if you have a misunderstanding about what you are between being a person or personnel of government and one of the people, you can lose cases for that reason only. So let's be wise. Let's be intelligent. Let's take this thing to the next level. And when we make our affidavits, let's make sure that we let them know that we're one of the people and show them where in the Constitution we come with that standing. And we are not one of the personnel or persons of government. Let's go.